Right. So one of the huge issues with marketing is you tend to find you've got two avenues you can take. You can either do everything yourself and not knowing what angle to focus on cause yourself a significant amount of burnout. And again, in the early days, it's something I've done. Or you can pay someone else. And in which case, in the early days, you can't afford to, especially if you've got $1,000 left to work with. Because with $1,000, you can run 1 month's worth of AdWords and probably convert nobody. If $1,000 can't get you conversions, then you have a problem if you're trying to start a small business. The system is sort of built around people with money. So we're going to break down the advertising systems that exist and how they can be used. And again, this is going to be more general. So you've got the traditional, the old school methods. Now there's the broadcast model, which is TV, radio, print, and billboards. Billboards are very, very localized, highly expensive. And Jesse, you drove here?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me 3 things you saw on billboards on your way?
So I saw a person that looked really happy on one. I saw a price for a billboard on another. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember what was on the third.
Okay. So the person looked happy. What were they happy about?
I don't remember. Golden Easter.
What's that?
I assume it's some sort of lottery.
You assume?
I mean, they looked happy and like they just won a lot of money. So like,
how do you apply for that? How do you join? How do you get the happiness?
I'd have to go back to the billboard.
To get back to the billboard.
Yeah.
And the next one was what?
The other one was a billboard advertising the billboard itself.
Okay, so you know exactly what that product is.
Yeah.
What's the number?
It's about €100.
No, what's the number?
The phone number.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Right.
I'd have to go back to the billboard.
You'd have to go back to the billboard. Billboards are not an effective way to spend money. We all get impressions from them. But unless the only thing you're trying to do is imprint a brand, billboards are going to get you nowhere. And they pretty much never have, which is amazing that people continue to use them. They only ever really generate vested interest from people who are walking. And typically, they're not hugely around pathways. They're normally more around roads.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen one when I was walking for a diner park. I don't know where, how much, or the website address, but I know it's there. But when you're going for brands, you can use a billboard because it doesn't matter. I speak about this one a lot. Before the telephone network 3 launched in the UK, they had on all the bus stops and the billboards just a big number 3 that said 3 is coming. It said nothing else. It's been decades. I remember it. And when they launched, I went, oh, that's free. But their intention was never to make a sale. It was to prepare you for them to make a sale. It was to get you interested. Then there's TV, which is broader. And again, equally as problematic. Almost 20 years ago in America, they introduced a device called the TiVo, which allowed you to skip all of the adverts. So anyone who paid for that ad space was not getting seen. These days, more of you are on Netflix and YouTube than you are on actual television. My antenna's not plugged in. He doesn't have a TV. Television ad broadcasting has got cheaper. And if that is where your audience is, that's fantastic. For instance, if you are advertising pension or legal services, someone who organizes setting up a will. Typically, people over the age of 50, 60, they are watching traditional television. So if they're your demographic, it's actually not a bad investment. If your demographic is millennials or younger, you're going to get nowhere with TV. Radio, actually, not just internet radio, but radio is actually not a terrible system for marketing. Because, while a lot of people do not pay attention when they're watching TV, in actual fact, people who do have TV and have Netflix are more likely to be looking at their phone and the screen when they're on it. People driving cars often have the radio on. If a radio is catchy enough, then someone will walk away remembering. And it costs less because there's no visuals. It tends to cost less to produce and to distribute. So even though that's old school, it still works in this era. Print. So printing is very, very local. You do advertisements like flyers that you put through doors. Now, back when I started my first company, 23 years ago, we ran with print. We put flyers through doors. And as time went by and Google emerged and digital advertising became a thing, we noticed that at the start, internet advertising would get us 11-12% conversions and print would get us 4. But as time has gone by, Google tends to see less than 0.01% conversions, and flyers still get 4. They have staying power, but are absolutely useless if you're, for example, a Canadian living in Eastern Europe trying to market digital services to America and Canada. Right, so obviously the biggest problem with these old systems is the limited targeting range. They really are local unless you've got a great deal of money to work with. And if you're watching this on YouTube, AKFlix, SnipeSearch, or wherever you might be consuming this, you're consuming this because you're trying to find a way to run your own marketing, which means you probably don't have that kind of money. But internet radio stations are fairly global. They work on the same premise, and any car that's got a digital internet radio in it can listen to them. So bearing in mind that you can advertise on internet radio for fractions of a penny per listener. So that's worth doing. Which is the same sort of model as advertising on Spotify. It's interruptive advertising. Interruptive advertising works when your product and your marketing are well placed. So digital radio, Spotify, it can work. It can be affordable interruptive advertising. Advertising in a magazine or a newspaper, these also can work pretty well. But again, they're local. So we now need to work on your marketing mindset shift, which is how you move away from purely interruptive to the full digital era, which is mostly what I think people here will be approaching. In the 21st century, we no longer run our businesses under the premise of trying to get somebody to walk into a store. In fact, most of the high streets around the West are basically empty if there isn't a coffee shop somewhere. They are places we go to eat and drink, not necessarily places we go to trade anymore. Supermarkets have covered everything. So your business is likely going to be online only, whether or not it's a physical e-commerce product or a service. This removes barriers of entry for both your cost of marketing and the location of your consumer. Now, there are obviously physical limitations that I will cover as we go forward, but essentially, if you've got $20, you can start running advertising. Now, that doesn't mean you should spend just $20. On SnipeSearch Adclicks, $20 goes a long way in both CPC and CPM. Because cost per click, which you can do it from 1 cent per click, or CPM, cost per mil, you can do 1 cent per 1,000 displays. It's pretty cheap. Mostly those things are going to be either incredible intent or very broad when you bid at those prices, which means conversions will either be slow or they'll be low volume. Now, still by the dollar, it's going to perform better than something like Google, but Google will send you traffic faster. You will spend more on Google, and I got that calculation, by the way, by uploading our ROI numbers into Gemini and asking it to compare to Google. But obviously, there is a volume factor that you would spend that $1 million in Google, you could spend that in 3 months, whereas $1 million would go over 2 to 3 years with us. But also provide you significantly more results until everyone has adopted and things start to go up a little bit. But we're not likely to ever reach Google's cost per click, especially because our delivery is wider. Google have a maximum capacity of 6.5 billion people in their audience, and ours is 8 billion. That being said, as I've explained, $20 with us, that could last a long time before you see real conversions. Because if you're advertising something and that something is not what's being actively looked for on our network, you're not going to get quick sales. You'll get sales eventually. But if you're running a business, you've got monthly overheads to contend with. You need to spend more than $20 on advertising.
I have a month, so quick.
So quick
needs to happen.
Becomes a premise. You have precise targeting, and you have a variety of way of doing this. There's search, social, display, email, and video as the cores. Video is vast. Now, vast is something that Jesse will be using once he's been taught how to.
I had to Google what Vast was when I saw it.
Oh, did you?
On-
You looked it up.
I looked it up because I saw that it was an option on Snipe. Like Vast is now an option. Like, cool.
Right.
What does that mean?
When you watch a video on YouTube or Facebook or SnipeSocial, Vast is pretty cheap and effective on networks like TikTok. And if you put $20 into Vast ads on TikTok, you're going to see some growth on your TikTok. And it's the same if you put $100 into Vast ads on YouTube, you will see growth on your YouTube. So you will want to be able to make some videos to be able to do a little bit of Vast market awareness advertising. This is interruptive. It means it needs to be good. You want to be able to make something that people will choose to watch, but also doesn't necessarily deter for the product.
So for Purple Burger, you mean it'd be good for me to get on a unicycle and start juggling for the first time, catch that on a really old camera, and put that into the world?
Yes.
Okay.
Something random. Going back, there's a few I can think of with relative ease. In the UK, there was an insurance company called More Than.
More than.
Yeah. More Than had an advert where a dog was left in the car and it accidentally took the handbrake off. Then the car goes zipping down the hill, moves through all of the traffic in the road, and then comes to a safe stop. And someone in the ad says, that was lucky. And someone else says, that was more than lucky. That advert is 25, 30 years old, before viral YouTube, but still highly memorable. And there was also, I think there was a Pepsi advert that was similar in that it held over time. It was a kid went up to the vending machine, put in his money, got a Diet Coke, put in some more, got another Diet Coke, put them on the floor, stood on them so that he could reach the button to press for Pepsi. A well-done video will stick with you. So when you spend a little bit of money on a Vast ad, $10, $20, $30 here and there, this can extend the life of your advertising budget immensely. Pay-per-click and CPM are intent-based, whereas Vast is a modern version of interruption-based. It's like having adverts on television. You want to put some money in there. Vast ads, despite being interruption-based, they are also fairly highly targeted. When you advertise on TikTok or YouTube, you're going to be able to select the age and location of your audience. This is going to be immense. And of course, you can do the same on SnipeSearch Adclicks. But right now, we're discussing how you can use your modern budget. I don't advise, even owning SnipeSearch, I don't advise anyone to stick all their money in our network. I don't advise you to stick all your money in any network. Your launch budget for advertising can be $500. Most advertising companies will tell you you need to be able to spend $1,000 a month to get usable information. You absolutely don't. That being said, the only reason you can get away with spending less is because with the advent of personal recording phones and I hate it, and Jesse knows I do, but AI assistants. You can put together a small video or audio ad with very little money. Now, back 10, 20 years ago, the production of an advert would have been the main thing that cost you. But these days, you could go on something like Pixabay and get a few videos of cats playing with yarn and turn them into something with relative ease. But that's the point. Look at you. You're laughing at the concept. If you scrolled down and you saw cats playing with balls of string, and then,
but that's why people look at videos online anyway.
And
so
you would be laughing at the cats. You wouldn't realize you're watching in the advert, and at the end it would say, you know, equity finance, pulling the strings of your future. You know, you will.
Oh,
yeah. It's you can do it with ease. So if you can do it with ease, you can spend less money. Email marketing is still sort of a thing. We do it very, very occasionally, as I expressed to Jesse earlier. Don't get too tied up with getting people to sign up for your newsletter, but do have one with a double opt-in, because the double opt-in is important to not find yourself in blacklists. You at most should send a newsletter once a month. Many of you at home who have accepted the sales and promotions emails from your company will see that company might send you 3 or 4 emails a week. Because for some reason, the people at these companies think if they send you more emails, you're more likely to click. They're working on the aggressive volume premise. But what actually happens is you get sick and tired and they become white noise when you scroll through your inbox. Don't be the white noise. Be the thing they notice that's different.
I know that there's like, I look for that unsubscribe button, especially if I bought something and I didn't realize it was subscribing, because like, oh no,
Yes, especially like you start seeing a lot of them, you're immediately looking for an unsubscribe, or you just ignore. It comes down to it's not effective. Email marketing can be incredibly effective, up to 7 to 8% conversion, if your email marketing is sparse and effective. Social media marketing, which we will cover in great detail. A lot of people would pay for social media marketing. They'll pay for ad networks on Facebook and, again, SnipeSearch, TikTok, etc. But ask yourself before you pay for the ad, do I have the ability to make a video that will, or a post that will go viral on its own accord? Don't pay until you're sure. But I'm sure most of you notice that when you are scrolling through your feed, most of the content now is artificially generated. It's AI because they've released the Meta AI built into Facebook. The comments are clearly bots designed to start arguments. How often you'll see a post that says 99.9% of people will get this wrong, and they've actually phrased the question wrong just to make sure everyone's confused about how to answer it. Because of that, when you pay for ads on networks like Meta, and bots are more likely to interact than people, and you're paying for that. So social media marketing is important. You need to be on networks like Meta or Instagram. But when you're on them, try to use those ones organically. TikTok, I have noticed their advertising seems to work, as does Snapchat. Keep your spends to a minimum on them. This doesn't mean don't ever spend, don't boost. It just means be conservative. Take some time to analyze the data from your organic post and decide whether or not a financial boost would have value. Because it might, but it might not. But test it organically before you hit the boost. And you'll notice that almost immediately after posting an organic post on your page or Facebook, it will say, hey, do you want to pay and reach 3,000 extra people? No, you don't. You want to wait, see what happens. If you've got a time critical thing, you've got a promotion that lasts 30 days and after 48 hours, nobody seems to have looked at it, yes, you want a boost. But you also want to go in and refine it, because the AI targeting of their boost that will automatically kick in will drain you of funds and get you nothing. There will be a course. There will be a book that focuses on how to maximize the efficiency of your spend on Facebook. The problem with this issue with there are so many platforms you can advertise on, whether they be search platforms, display networks, social media, it becomes overwhelming. It becomes overwhelming to the point where most companies do fairly early hire someone to manage all of this, which you can obviously hire at Purple Burger, because it can be a lot. If you want to be able to reach people on social media has become a fairly divided space because it's become fairly unsocial. You want to be on things like Blue Sky, but you also can't necessarily avoid Twitter. Trying to post to... There are actually almost 3,000 social networks in existence. But even just trying to fire out to the big 20 at least once a day can be an overwhelming task. So I recommend you are on the sort of top 20 that we recommend. But I recommend that you have a posting schedule that suggests that you post to 3 a day and you rotate which ones you're paying attention to. You have a schedule that means that you're not on Facebook every day. You're not on Twitter every day. Volume does not necessarily increase sales. It doesn't necessarily increase prospects. Test what schedules work best for a particular network and then amplify how you behave there. If you're on Facebook and you find, actually, I do need to post at 4 p.m. every day at Facebook, then fine, you're going to have to hardline that into your schedule. But you also don't need to do 4 a.m. and 4 p.m. Even if you feel like you're getting good boosts on both, pick something you can fit into your schedule that gets effect. And do that until you can afford someone to run marketing directly, because you don't want to be doing it all the time. Trust me, I've done it.
Trying to do everything.
Well, this is important, really. Step one of teaching someone to market is to not teach you how to market, but to teach you how to step back from it
Yeah, well, and that's a big part of Purple Burger is the do less approach, where we focus on doing the things that are effective and they work, and that's why I have Steve, because he has the experience and can tell me what works. And less, I need to do everything and I need to do it everything every day, and I need to write a blog and I need to write a newsletter and I need to post on all these different.
A lot of these are in the common list. Yeah.
On all of these social networks, and then wait, I don't have any time to do my actual job.
Yeah, that is painful.
Yeah.
Building an email list. Talking about the newsletter, I have seen businesses almost go bankrupt, wasting time trying to build an email list.
There is a subscribe button on my website.
Yeah. But that's it. Be passive about your email. Like I say, you shouldn't be sending more than one a month anyway. Be super passive. And if you are writing a blog, then it's really easy to be passive, because you can just get an XML sheet, download from your WordPress website with the last 10 blog posts, and slap that together as a website highlights for the month and send that out. And it will just send them the title, the first paragraph of each article as an actual newsletter. Do it like an actual newsletter.
You're assuming I write way more, like I would just send the blog as a newsletter, and it's probably going to come like maybe every couple of weeks. Maybe.
That's an interesting approach. But again, you work on the premise of snippets will generate more traffic as long as your first paragraph is interesting. That's what it comes down to. An interesting first paragraph, but not clickbait. Everyone's sick of it.
How would you define clickbait?
You'll never guess what these twins from such and such look like now. That's clickbait.
That's the generic.
Yeah. Whereas more informative but lead generating would be, this week I performed some tasks and I learned a couple of things. Firstly, I learned, and then you talk about that first thing and then read more.
So things that are true about you.
Yeah, give half the answer actually there. Like if you've got a top 10 listicle, which they frustrate me, but it might be your business.
Listicle?
Yeah, and it's a list article where you list the top 10 of something. The 80% of the internet is generated listicles now by AI. But if you've got a top 10 listicle, your promotion on your social media really shouldn't be some clickbaity nonsense that misquotes something or suggests there's more to a story than there really is. If you've got a top 10 listicle, you can literally just give them the first 2 items from the listicle in the post and say, go to our website to read the other 8. Because if you wrote it right, then they'll actually want to read the other 8. And if they want to read the other 8, if they come to the website, you'll have their attention. And if you have their attention, they will generate money, they will return, they'll click advertisements. And that's super important as well. Please, for the love of your website, no page on your website should ever be more than 20% advertising space.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of cooking websites, like recipe websites, where it's like crazy. You need to. If this is the website, you need to look at the pen. That's where the recipe is.
That's if you're lucky. And it's like, to make this cake, you will need 2 eggs. Add flour. Ads. The water. Add. Please stop. Why people are using ad blockers. And the thing is, you're ramping up the number of ads you get in because your revenue's going down because 80% of your users are running ad blockers. Whereas if you didn't have that many ads, none of the users would be using ad blockers. You are creating the problem you're trying to solve. Less ads. Less intrusive ads.
Less is more.
It really is. It is such a, and I've said it how many times already, we're in the first section. Is a mistake people make is they try to ramp up. We reached millions of people and I only ever ramped up the advertisements enough to cover our running costs. I know I've ramped them up a little bit to put us into profit, but I will never ramp them up enough that it is disturbing to people, that it is disruptive. You can't do it. If you do, you're going to damage your own business. And the only people who are going to be on your website are bots. And that doesn't convert.
Bots don't convert.
Not really, no. Again, we talked about video. Now with video, it's very easy to say, oh, I've got to get video on TikTok every day. And you see a lot of influencers do this, and you see a lot of influencers burn out. And I've worked with a lot of influencers over the years who have become absolutely destroyed by their social media. Now, there's a good chance that 40% of the people who watch this on YouTube are going to say some horrific things about me in the comments. They are going to attack my persona because they don't like the lesson.
Oh yeah, just like, don't look at the comment section.
Rule 1, if this is going to upset you, it is not you don't have to put content out there, because people are like, well, you shouldn't put yourself out there if you don't want to be bothered. Just don't read the comments. You don't need to. They're not going to aid you in any way if they're non-constructive. It's highly possible they won't be. Don't expose yourself to the comments if they're going to bother you. You don't need to. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, there was an old saying that all press is good press. This can actually be fairly true unless you are a horrific person. Somebody taking a pop at you for the way you look or because they disagree with your stance isn't actually going to hurt your persona at all. It doesn't matter. If somebody wants to contact you directly about assistance, for us, it's going to be whatever actual training platform you're watching it on, not where we put it out for free. But if you want to talk to us on any of the major online educational platforms where we intend to put this, we will answer your messages there. And you don't really see trolls in online colleges.
Good sound.
So we will ignore what people say on YouTube. If you're on YouTube watching this and you have a question that you want to ask me or Jesse, then
Purple Burger.
Then go to the Purple Burger website or go to one of the training courses and ask us there. Because if you've made the effort to come to us, one could assume it's because you actually care about the thing you're going to say, and it's not just because you're passively trolling. Because social network is full of passive trolls. Create a system where anyone can contact you, but only if they really want to contact you. And again, until you get a social media manager that you can put in front of a desk who won't take it personally because it's not them being attacked. If it's your business, it's your project, that's going to hurt. You're going to feel it when somebody comes at your thing. So you've got to learn to avoid the fatigue by not getting too deep into it. Now, writing blog posts, another burnout topic, but as Jesse said, he only does one every couple of weeks maybe. And you can. Google will index your site every 7 to 10 days maximum. Snipe, we will do it once every 30 maximum. As long as there's new content, you'll get a stamp that you updated your website. It doesn't need to be updated daily. It doesn't. And your users will be happy for quality content in a world of AI slop. So if your thing is a blog, write when you are comfortable. Write when you feel the need. Don't write because there's a schedule. Then if you have a day where you have a series of immense inspiration, you write 6 or 7 articles, store them on your computer, and then release one every couple of days, so that should you get a bit of writer's fatigue and you need a break from writing, you've created a back catalogue on a good day. You don't need to publish it all live. You don't, and I'm not saying go out of your way to write a lot of articles, just if you get the urge, write them and don't release them all at once. You've got something to fall on when you need a break from writing. The desperate desire to engage with followers constantly. Now, with some social networks, you have no choice. Like I said, with YouTube, you could ignore the comments in theory. But every now and then, with your socials, you will need to go into that comment section, especially on things like Facebook, X, Blue Sky. Blue Sky, there are very few bots, there are very few trolls. So you're not going to have a huge issue with people coming at you for no reason. But if you don't engage at all, you will disappear off of the feed. That being said, you don't need to be permanently in the feed or permanently engaged. Put aside 1 hour every other day to respond to people in comments. Don't do it all at once. And don't use an AI to take the workload off of you.
So for Facebook, I need to respond to the comments or I disappear.
Oh, yeah. Because you're not monetizable if you're not interacting.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
I've definitely just been
yeah.
putting stuff out and not looking at the comments.
No, you're not monetizable if you're not interacting.
And I need to be monetizable if I want to be seen.
Yeah. But they won't care about you if you're not.